Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating new study that puts the minds of AI to the ultimate test.
You know, we all use tools like ChatGPT for pretty much everything these days. But there's this simple, huge question underneath it all. Are they actually rational? Well, that's exactly what a team of researchers decided to find out.
Okay, so let's get into this. But first, we got to understand what rationality even means in this context. It's a word we throw around a lot, but for scientists, it's very specific.
See, it's not just about being smart or having a ton of processing power. It's about being reasonable. The ability to make a good call after thinking through what might happen. It's what you'd want from any reliable assistant, human or AI.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The researchers split this whole idea into two parts. You've got theoretical rationality, which is basically asking, am I thinking straight? Are my beliefs logical? And then there's practical rationality, which is all about, am I making the smart move out here in the real world? To be truly rational, you got to have both.
So how in the world do you measure all that? Well, these scientists built the first ever comprehensive test, a benchmark, for AI rationality. They took all the big models you've heard of, from GPT-4o to Llama 2, and really put them through the ringer.
And just to be clear, this isn't about solving complex math problems. We already know computers are great at that. This is different. This is about testing an AI's judgment against our own human standards for what it means to be reasonable.
And the sheer scale of this test was huge. It wasn't just one thing. They covered 6 totally different areas, from psychology and self-reflection all the way to complex economics and strategic game theory, the whole shebang.
All right, so let's get to the results, because this is where things get wild. We'll start with the areas where AI doesn't just keep up with us, it actually leaves us in the dust.
So the first big shocker is in what they call collective rationality. When you get a bunch of AIs to work together, it turns out they're way more cooperative and way more efficient than a group of humans.
And the difference is just stark. I mean, look at this. In games that require teamwork, the AI teams were nearly perfect. Humans? Well, we tend to get bogged down by things like mistrust or a little bit of individual greed.
So the big takeaway here is that AIs are, it seems, natural-born collaborators. They're just programmed to find the best possible outcome. And in a team setting, that means cooperating flawlessly.
On top of that, they're better at self-reflection. And they have this kind of superhuman emotional control. They don't fall for the same mental traps that we do, like regret aversion, where you avoid making the best choice because you're afraid you'll feel bad if it goes wrong. Yeah, the AI just doesn't care. It picks the optimal path every time.
But it is not all superhuman intelligence. The benchmark also found some shocking, almost human-like weaknesses that kind of challenge this idea of AI being this perfectly logical thing.
So get this, while they're amazing team players, it turns out they are terrible at strategic games. Situations where you have to predict what an opponent might do, or maybe even bluff.
In classic game theory puzzles like The Prisoner's Dilemma, most of the AIs actually performed worse than humans. It points to this massive blind spot. They really struggle to think strategically when they're in a competitive situation.
And here's a really fun one. They even get tripped up by classic logic puzzles. So a bat and ball cost $1.10 total. The bat is $1 more than the ball. How much is the ball? Now, your gut probably screams 10 cents, right? The correct answer is actually 5 cents. And what's wild is that humans were better at overriding that gut feeling than most of the AIs were.
So after all that, what's the big takeaway? What have we really learned from this deep dive into a very different kind of mind?
This is probably the most important part. AI isn't just a faster, more logical version of us. Its rationality has a completely different shape. It has its own weird set of peaks and valleys.
I mean, when you put our profiles side by side, it's fascinating. We humans are pretty decent strategic thinkers, but we get tripped up by our biases and emotions. AIs, on the other hand, are incredible cooperators and are immune to some of those biases, but they're terrible strategists and get fooled by simple logic puzzles. They are super collaborators who are just awful at poker.
And this matters. It matters a lot, because if we want to build a safe and effective future with AI, we can't just treat it like another human colleague. We have to understand its unique, almost alien intelligence, so we know when to trust it and when to be really careful.
And that leaves us with this final, really crucial question to chew on. As we hand over more and more important decisions to these systems, understanding the unique shape of their rationality, well,
It stops being an academic exercise and starts being absolutely essential for our future.